It's me.
Marina, welcome.
Thank you.
And introduce for our visiting
Right.
and those that are following, introduce yourself.
I got that. Okay, so I'm Marina Brandt, and I too am a program manager for the Delta Science Program. With me today are Dr. Tracy Collier, who's the chair of the Independent Science Board, and the chair-elect, Dr. Jay Lund. As you know, the 2009 Delta Reform Act created the Independent Science Board to provide oversight of the scientific research, monitoring, and assessment of programs that support adaptive management of the Delta. In addition, the Delta Reform Act required that the Independent Science Board review the BDCP Draft Environmental Impact Report impact statement. The Reform Act also required that they submit this review to you, the Council, and also to the Department of Fish and Wildlife, which is, under the Reform Act, referred to as the Department of Fish and Game. And then, in addition, on November 15th, 2012, this Council approved a charge to the ISB to guide its review of the BDCP EIR EIS. And the charge asked the ISB to comment on four primary aspects. The first was the completeness, structure, and effectiveness of the description of the alternatives. The second one was the appropriateness of the approach, analysis, tools, and modeling used to conduct the impact analysis. The third aspect was the adequacy of the proposed monitoring and description of the adaptive management plan, including whether or not the adaptive management goals are achievable. And then the last aspect was to evaluate the scientific basis and clarity of some very specific regulatory questions. Now, the ISB actually initiated its review in 2012, and they started it by reviewing administrative draft documents of the BDCP and the draft EIR EIS. These preparatory efforts culminated in the production of 4 memos, and these memos were produced between June 2012 and June 2013. They were submitted to the Natural Resources Agency, the Department of Water Resources, the Department of Fish and Game, and then also one was submitted to you, the Council. So this final review constitutes the ISB's comments on the draft EIR, and this is what's before you today. Now, this effort included not only a review of the draft EIR EIS, but also of the draft BDCP and the Phase 1, 2, and 3 reports prepared by the Independent Review Panel on the Effects Analysis. The ISB members assigned themselves specific chapters, and these chapter assignments were based on each member's area of expertise. And then that individual was considered the lead reviewer, and they were supported then by a subset of ISB members. Additional support was provided by Dr. Michael Healy, who has had various hats. One, he was previously a lead scientist for the Delta Science Program, and most recently he was a past member of the Delta Independent Science Board. But he led the review on the adaptive management component of the plan. Now, a few of the chapters of the draft EIR EIS were not reviewed by the Independent Science Board, but the board firmly believes that review of additional chapters would not change its overall conclusions. The process that they went through in terms of putting their comments together included lengthy discussions at each of the public meetings that were held this year from January through May. In addition, at the January meeting, Laura King Moon, who's the Chief Deputy Director of DWR, came with the BDCP team and made themselves available to answer questions. At the February meeting, DWR staff and again members of the consultant BDCP team attended the meeting and again answered questions. The ISB also received presentations from others, including one from Walter Beret of MBK Engineering, who made his presentation on some of the modeling that was used to model the water operations. And then also Jeff Mount of Saraceno and Mount, who was involved in a panel review of the administrative draft of the BDCP that panel had prepared for both the Nature Conservancy and American Rivers. And then in addition to that, the ISB received numerous public comments at the public meeting. So the ISB's report is comprised of an overall summary of its primary findings and 2 appendices. Appendix A is basically the ISB's responses to the council's charge to them to conduct the review. And Appendix B consists then of comments on individual chapters of the draft EIR. So next, I'd like to turn this over to Dr. Collier, who will present the ISB's findings.